Hey, this is Eric, and this is a recording of a session I did for the 2021 Spark Educational Technology Conference. This session is titled Stop Motion Animation with Google Slides and is all about how you and your students can use Google Slides to create stop motion animations to tell a story or illustrate a process or explain any concept from your class. I hope you enjoy the recording.
So welcome everybody to the 2021 Spark Educational Technology Conference. We are so excited to have you with us here today for this session on stop motion animation with Google Slides presented by me, Eric Kurtz. For the benefit of all of our attendees during the session, we'll of course ask you to keep your microphone muted and if possible, turn your webcam off as well. That can help with the bandwidth. Although, if you do have a question and you would prefer to speak up, I don't mind if you want to use like the raise hand button to say that you would prefer to ask a question in person. Totally fine with me. I don't mind that at all. I would say primarily use the chat feature in Google Meet to ask any questions or share any comments you have, but also feel free to do the hand raising option if you want to have me call on you specifically, and then you can unmute and we can chat as well that way. This session is being recorded and it will be available for viewing later on the conference website. So you can catch it again or share it with other people who you think might benefit from this. Well, at this time, it is my pleasure to kick off this session. So I'll start off with a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, quick introduction. So howdy, everybody. My name's Eric. I work here at Spark at the Stark County Educational Service Center. This is my 30th year in education. I used to be a middle school math teacher and then became a tech integration specialist and been doing that ever since. And so my day job is to work with schools in the Stark County and surrounding county area, providing support on creative ways to use technology in the classroom. Today, for this particular session, we're going to be looking at a really fun thing to do with Google Slides, stop motion animation with Google Slides. Now, I got resources that we're going to be using throughout the session, which can be found at the link you see at the top here, bit.ly/Kurtz-stop motion. Now, for those that are in the live meeting, if it's easier for you, I will just copy and paste the link to that agenda into the chat. And you can just click on that to pull that up. Folks that are watching the recording later, or if it's just easier for you to type it in, the bit.ly will get you there as well. bit.ly/Kurtz-stop motion. That document has lots of examples of stop motion. It's got lots of tips and tricks on how we can do stop motion animation. And then it even has some optional going further things that hopefully with the time we have today, we'll be able to explore some of these as well. And I did want to mention again, I did mention this for the folks that were here before we got started, I had mentioned at the very, very, very bottom of the agenda document, I do have a link that goes to a share your creation document. So let's say during the session, you want to build a stop motion animation while we're going through this and while I'm demonstrating it. We'd love to see what you guys make. Now, you don't have to share that, of course, but if you do create something and you would like to share it, at the very bottom of the agenda, there is a link to a document that is editable, and anybody's allowed to edit this document. So you can come here and put in a link to the thing that you create. You'll see other people have done that in the past. Here are some of the creations other people have done. So we'll keep an eye on that when we get back to that at the end of the session and see if any brave and bold people have shared your creations throughout the session. But otherwise, I would just encourage you to grab that document at bit.ly/Kurtz-stop motion. You are allowed to make a copy of this document if that's easier for you to follow along, or you can just bookmark it or add it to your drive or just pull it up as a reference, whatever works best for you. Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about what this session is going to be all about here. So we are going to be talking about using Google Slides in a creative manner. Normally, when we think about using Google Slides, we think about what I'm doing right now. a presentation. Slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. I mean, just a regular, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That is what Google Slides was designed to do. So if you create slides like I've got here and your students, create presentations and you've been doing that for years, wonderful. That's exactly what you should be doing with Google Slides. The cool thing is, though, there's more we can do. We can go further with it. A lot of really neat activities can be done with Google Slides. And what we're going to do in this session is look at a specific one, which is creating stop motion animation. And the idea would be, this would be a wonderful way for you, for example, to create some learning materials. Maybe there's a concept in your class that you could illustrate better by creating a stop motion animation. Maybe it's, the water cycle, or maybe it's how to solve a math problem, or, telling a story. It could be so many things. So this could be something you do as a learning object for your students. But what's really exciting is this is wonderful for students to do. This is a great project for your kids because it allows them to express their learning. So they could take a concept that they've been learning in class and make a stop motion animation as their culminating project to show what they have learned about that. And for students who enjoy that sort of thing, oh my gosh, they're gonna they're gonna dig in and create some of the most creative things. And I'm not saying every student needs to make a stop motion animation, but what if it's a choice? Maybe you're like, okay, you need to explain photosynthesis, and you can make a video, or you could write a report, or you can make a website, or you can make a poster, or you can make a stop motion animation. Letting it be one of the choices gives our students student choice. It lets them choose what they how they want to express themselves. And for those that enjoy this, oh my gosh, they're going to make some amazing things that you'll really get a kick out of. So to start off with, the best thing we can do is just look at some examples. I think that would help just to see, what are you talking about here, Eric? What does this look like? So I'm going to go ahead and run through a couple examples with you. All of these can be found in the agenda document, and some of them I've created, some other people have been kind enough to share with me, and I appreciate them letting me share their examples as well. So in each one of these, what we're going to be looking at is a Google slideshow, but it's playing back at a fast speed so that it gives the impression of an animation. So to start off with, I'm going to pull up the first one I have here, which is the life cycle of a butterfly. So this is one I did recently, trying to pull together a bunch of different tips and tricks as an example. So I'm going to pull this one open here in a second, and you are absolutely encouraged to do the same as well. If you would like to follow along and look at these there, or you can just watch here on the screen, that's okay. I will give you a fair warning that this one does have audio in it. None of the other ones do, but the one, the life cycle of a butterfly, actually has audio in the stop motion animation, which is another tip that I hope to show you later in the session, how if you want to add audio, you can do that as well. So I'm going to plug in my speaker so we can hear the audio when it comes up. It's just me doing some narration in it. So let's go ahead and click on the link for the life cycle of a butterfly. And once that loads, so here we go. So this is the slideshow. And there's the narration. You notice the little egg is wiggling there. And now there he is. He's moving across, getting bigger.
The caterpillar is upside down and forms a chrysalis. The caterpillar undergoes metamorphosis to become a butterfly.
And he should pop out. There he is.
The butterfly emerges and lays new eggs.
And that's it. Awesome. Now at that point, it's just going to repeat. So I'm going to pause it there because we don't need to keep hearing me talk. But so that was a stop motion animation using Google Slides, the original. If you want to see what the original looked like, and we'll look at some more examples here. This is the actual slideshow that was happening in the background. All of these slides made that animation. So that was a 74 slideshow. And what was happening is it was playing back at a faster speed and full screen. And I was basically taking slides and making little changes on each slide. So it looked like the egg was wobbling, or it looked like the caterpillar was moving and growing bigger. or he was swinging down and then the chrysalis was appearing around him and then it wiggled and then the butterfly popped out and flew away and laid another egg. So that's what's happening behind the scenes, and we're going to build one of these from scratch, but that's what is going on in the background. Now, that's one way to do it. That's an example of what you could do. Oh, somebody had a question about links. Sherry said the links are not accessible. Sherry, can you let me know what links you're not able to open? So you, again, here is the agenda document, but the rest of the links, hopefully each thing in there should open up for you okay. If not, let me know which links you're not able to access. I'm going to go ahead and open up a couple other ones though. Maureen was saying click on the agenda link and then click links from there. Yeah, that would be all of the links here inside of the agenda should be accessible. All of these should be set as public, but if you can't, if there's a specific one you can't get to, let me know. Let's take a look at a couple others while you guys take a look at that. So in addition to the life cycle of a butterfly, here's some other ones that I did just to try to do a little bit of a different approach to it. So this next one here, I pretended that I was like in an English class and I had a vocab word that I was given and I had to explain that vocabulary word, and my vocabulary word was the word identical. And so I wanted to make a stop motion animation that explained what does the word identical mean. So for this one, instead of using clip art like I did with the butterfly one, I actually used real pictures. I used my webcam and I took pictures of a Lego thing I had built to show the idea of identical. So let's go ahead and pop that one open and see. So this one, we're doing the vocabulary term identical. And here's the little Lego guy, and he moves over and turns on his machine, and then he climbs up into his machine, and the machine does its stuff, and then he comes out and he's been cloned, and we get the word identical and we get the definition. So in a case like this, I actually used actual pictures. And so that's a way to do it too. You can make stop motion animation from real pictures and just moving things around and then putting those pictures into the slideshow and again, playing it back at a fast speed. Now I did add a little bit of special effects on top of it. These are just shapes from Google Slides that I put on top of it as well. So that's a way you could do it. The next one that I have in here, I did area of an irregular shape. So for this one, doing a little math instruction here, this one's back to more of the clip art and shapes. So rather than using photographs for this one. So in this one, I start off with this irregular shape and we want to be able to find the area of it. And so it talks through the idea of how we could cut the irregular shape into smaller shapes. And so the scissors come across and they cut it, and then I update the measurements here, and then we push the two apart. So we separate the top square or top rectangle from the bottom rectangle, and now we can find the area of each piece individually. So we get, part 1 is a certain size, part 2 is a certain size, and then of course we're going to put them back together and make the full shape again, putting our two pieces together to get our total area. So again, stop motion animation, that's a Google slideshow as well. In that case, just using shapes and clip art. Now, other folks have been kind enough to share some of their examples here. So everything else in the agenda after that, these are from other people. So for example, Beth Kingsley, a teacher here in Ohio, her students do a unit on figures of speech. And so here's one for when pigs fly, where we have an actual flying pig, as you can imagine. And again, that's just it's a Google slideshow. It's just playing back full screen at a fast speed, and it gives the illusion of animation. She's also got one here for under the weather, where the student is running away from a storm cloud. Now, another really cool example here is the cell cycle. This one's a little bit further down. This one is probably the biggest I've ever seen. I think this slideshow is like 600 individual slides. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. If it's something that your students get excited about, if this is, if they enjoy being creative and making these, they're going to go way beyond anything that, you imagined they would do and create so many awesome products with this. And what's neat about it is when the student makes this animation, it's not just something that you're going to grade and say, hey, good job, but you can reuse this now. This is now a learning object that you could use over and over and over again for years to come to help teach a concept. So the students aren't just expressing what they learned, the students are now contributing back to the class. They're creating something that can help other students learn as well. Awesome. All right. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of where we're trying to go today. This is the plan, is to create a Google slideshow that can then be turned into a stop motion animation. And what I'm going to do is for the rest of the time, and pretty much I'm just going to make one. I'm going to take you through step by step from scratch how we can build one of these. I would encourage you, if you want to build one along with me, maybe think of something you would like to animate, and feel free to do that while I am running through these examples here. And at the end, if you do build something and you want to share it, at the very bottom of the agenda document, there's a link to a document where you can share what you have created if you choose to do so. All right, so that's the plan. If you guys have any questions during the session, please throw those into the chat. I'm happy to stop at any point and go back over something or explain something. So please do let me know if you have any questions while we work through this. All right, so let's go ahead. We've seen our examples. We saw all those. Let's get into making our stop motion animation. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create a blank slideshow. So I'm going to head on over to Google Drive, and I'm going to make a blank slideshow. Let's head over to Google Drive, and from Google Drive, I'm going to click on the New button, and from the New button, I'm going to go down to Google Slides. Give it just a second, and there we go. There's my new slideshow. I'm going to, for my example, do a smaller version of the butterfly one I did. It won't be quite as fancy. I won't go into all of the details to make it all pretty like that, but I'm going to be showing you the mechanics of what's happening here. So let me do life cycle of a butterfly. All right, and so that will be the one I'm going to do. So I'm going to start off by creating my title slide here. And normally I'd make this prettier, kind of like I did here, where I added in some clip art and I picked a cool font and, gussied it up a little bit. For today's example, I'm going to keep it pretty basic. Now, if you've got any questions on those things, let me know. I'm happy to go into any of that too. But for the most part, I'm assuming most of us today probably feel comfortable with, changing a font or adding clip art, to make our slideshow look a little prettier. What we want to talk about is how to do the stop motion animation. So I'll keep it pretty simple other than that. All right, so life cycle of a butterfly, there is my, my title slide. Now what I need to do is create a new blank slide underneath this. So I'm going to go up to the top left-hand corner, click on the little down arrow next to the plus button up there, and I'm going to choose a blank slide. Now that may not be what you pick. You may pick a different type of a slide. It just depends on the animation you're making. Your animation does not have to look like mine. Just for my particular example, a blank slide is what I'm going to create next, because this is where I'm going to build my scene. And what I want for my scene is I want a branch with some leaves on it, and I want an egg for the to hatch, and I want a text box up in the top corner here where I can be explaining what's happening. So again, that's how my scene is going to be. Yours may not be like that. You may not have a background. You may just have a bunch of clip art, or you may have some text boxes, or you may have some shapes. Totally up to you as to how you're going to build it. But in my case, I want to start by putting in a branch here for the background. So I'm going to right click on my slide, and I'm going to choose change background. You can also just click on the background link up in the top menu bar too. When I choose change background, I can of course pick a different color if I want for the background, but I want an image. I want to put a picture in the background. So I'm going to go to the choose image option, and I'm going to just search for a branch. Hopefully I can find a good one similar to the one that I used before. Hopefully I can even find the exact same one. That would be nice. I could upload a picture, but in this case, I'm going to search, and let me see if I can find a tree branch that looks like the one I used before. If I can't find one exactly like that, that's okay. I can go with something else. I was trying to see if I could find the one I used before. If not, again, like I said, that's okay. Or I could do branch. Let's do branch with leaves. See if I find, and again, if I don't find the exact one as before, that's okay. We can just go with any of these and they'll be fine. Actually, that one looks good. That's got some leaves. I just want some leaves for my caterpillar to be able to chomp on as he's working his way across there. So, let's see. Maybe we'll go with this one. This one looks good. Yeah, we'll go with this one. How about we use this for our image? Let's try that one and see how it looks. Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll do fine. I can put my caterpillar egg here, and then I can have him work his way across here, and then hang the chrysalis over on this side, or vice versa, one way or the other. Looks good. Okay, so there's my background image. That's the image I'm going to be working off of. What else do I need? Well, I need an egg. I need a little egg to sit somewhere in here. So I could search for a picture of an egg, I guess. I could go insert image and search the web. But for this case, I think just adding a shape would work fine. If I go to the insert menu and I go to the shapes section, in the shapes menu, there's all kinds of shapes, including an oval. That would make a perfectly fine egg. So let's say we go ahead and go to insert shapes, and I grab the oval tool. So now I got to decide where I'm going to put my caterpillar, and tell you what, we'll have him start on the right and come across here, and we'll drop the chrysalis right in that spot. So let's put a caterpillar egg over here. So I'm going to stretch out the oval tool, and that can be my little caterpillar egg right there. If I'm going to change the color, I can go up to the, I can make it a different color. Probably just white is fine for it. I think that looks good. And then maybe I'll make him a little bit bigger so we can see the egg better. Okay, there we go. So there's my caterpillar egg sitting right there. And then the other thing I needed a text box. And up here in the top left-hand corner, that'll be a good spot to have the text. Because if you remember, what it looked like was I had a spot where it described what was happening at each point there. So to do that, I can either insert a text box, drag that out and type my text in there. Or what I can do is I can insert a shape and just type inside of the shape. So I can say insert shape, and I could pick like the rounded rectangle. And if I drag that out, you're allowed to simply double click inside of a shape and you can type your text right in there. I'm going to save a little bit of time, and I'm going to copy the text from before and just paste it in, because that will save us a little bit of time. You don't have to watch me type all that in. So there we go. Looks good. So now I've got a text box there in the top corner. I'm set. I'm ready to go. Looks like I have my initial scene. So at this point, what I need to do is I need to start animating things. So the first section is the eggs need to hatch into caterpillars. So the egg needs to wiggle. So it looks like it's about ready to hatch, and then boop, a caterpillar needs to pop out of it. So how do we do that? Well, from here on out, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take whatever slide we've got, we're going to duplicate it and make little changes to it. And that's what ends up giving the effect of the animation. So in this case, I'm going to take this slide and make a copy of it. So I could do, right-click copy, and then right-click paste. That would do it. Or I can do Control-C, Control-V. That'll copy-paste. Or if you really want to save time, you can do what's called duplicating. So if you right-click, you'll see there's a duplicate option, and it doesn't show it, but there's actually a shortcut for it. Control-D or Command-D on a Mac. Control-D will be a duplicating tool. So if I come here and I go Control-D, there we go. It duplicates the slide. So now I've got two copies of it, and what I need to do is come over to my egg and move him a little bit. So how do I want my egg to wiggle? Well, maybe I just want him to move back and forth. That would be fine. Move to the left, move to the right, make it look like he's kind of wiggling there. So at this point, we want to talk about moving things. I could grab it with my mouse, and I could use my mouse, and I could drag it to the left and then drag it back to the right. The only problem with using my mouse is it's not going to be consistent, probably. Chances are I'm not going to move it as smoothly each time. So it's going to be kind of, jerky as it moves around. So something that I would like to suggest to you guys is using some shortcuts. Now, these keyboard shortcuts are all included in the agenda document. So if you're in the agenda document and scroll down to page 2, you'll see a table where I've listed a bunch of keyboard shortcuts that can make things a little bit smoother for you. And again, I'll throw that link to the agenda in the chat if anybody still hasn't opened it that wants to. So for example, using my arrow keys, I can move up, down, right, and left. Shift arrow lets me move just 1 pixel at a time. Alt left and right arrow let me rotate things by 15 degrees. Alt shift left and right let me rotate by 1 degree. And then Control Alt J and K makes things bigger or smaller. What's nice about using those shortcuts is that it's much more precise. So in this example, I'm going to keep this real simple. All I'm going to do is click on the egg, and I'm just going to use my left arrow key to move it to the left. That's it. Just boop, he moves to the left. Then I'm going to duplicate the slide, and guess what? Click on the egg and push the right arrow key and move it back to the right. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm just going to duplicate it and move them to the left, duplicate it, and move them to the right. And so what's happening is if I click on the first slide and just use my arrow keys to scroll down through the film strip, it looks like we're starting to get that animation already. So as I go down, he's moving left and right, and so my egg is wiggling, okay? So I could keep doing that as many times as I need to give him some time before the caterpillar pops out. You could also save yourself a little bit of time in that you don't have to just make a copy of the one slide. Since this one's kind of in a loop, he goes left, right, left, right, left, right. I could actually take my mouse, click on the slide, hold down the control key, click on the other slide that's part of this left, right pattern, and I could copy and paste 2 slides at a time. And now, if I do that, I'm getting, you know, a bunch of wiggles. And so now he's, you know, going left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So you do as many as you want. In this case, that's probably plenty. That's enough wiggling. And so now what I want to do is I want to have a caterpillar pop out of the egg. So I will go ahead on this slide now, have a caterpillar pop out here. And so what I want to do is I want to insert an image, and I'll search the web, and I'll search for a caterpillar. And probably what I'll do, if I just do a regular caterpillar search, I'm going to probably get pictures. And I don't think that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something more clip arty. And so what I like to do is add the letters PNG on the search. That stands for Portable Network Graphics. And those are images that have transparency with them. And I want that because I don't want the caterpillar to have a big white box around him. I want him to be transparent so it looks like I could see the background behind him. So if I search for caterpillar PNG and I grab one of these guys and I insert it, let's see if he is transparent around him. Yes, he is. See, I can see all around him. So now I can shrink him up because he's going to be a baby caterpillar at first. And I can put him here where the egg was, and I can get rid of the egg here. We'll make the egg go away because he just hatched, right? So we'll delete the egg and we'll put the caterpillar right where the egg was. So let's see how we're doing. On this slide, there's an egg. On the next one, there's a caterpillar, which means I need to update the text here as he now moves into the next phase. Because what's the next phase? The next phase is the caterpillar is going to walk across the branch, maybe get over to here, and then drop down the chrysalis. So I now need to move him, and I need him to grow as he moves. So let's go ahead and we'll duplicate that slide, and let's update the text. So again, I'm just going to steal the text from here. Let's see if I can remember where it was. There we go. So the text was that the caterpillar eats leaves and grows big. So we'll come back over here, and I will update the text with that. Awesome. And so now, how do we move the caterpillar and make him bigger? Well, basically, we're going to just start duplicating the slide, and then I'm going to click on my caterpillar and move him. So I got to decide how much to move him. I mean, I can move him 1 at a time if I want him to go real slow. For today, though, just to speed things up, I think I'll move him like 5 at a time because that'll get him over to the branch a little bit quicker. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I might need to move him down a little bit so he sticks on the branch as he goes. And if I really want to get fancy, I can even rotate him so it looks like he's going along the branch. So we'll see. But there he is. He's moved 5 spaces to the left, and I want him to grow bigger. Well, remember, the shortcut for that is Control-Alt-K to make something bigger. So what I'll do is I'll go Control-Alt-K, and there he is bigger. And then just keep duplicating it. Duplicate the slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the side. And tell you what, we will rotate him down a little bit this time so it looks like he's actually sticking on there. Control-Alt-K, making bigger. Duplicate the slide and move him again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll rotate him up this time so it looks like he's still on the branch a little bit better. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And Control-Alt-K, making bigger. And then you get the idea. Just keep on duplicating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll move him up a little bit so it looks like he's still on there. Control-Alt-K, making bigger. Duplicate the slide. Move him over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got to keep him up on there though. And rotate him a little bit so he's still sticking to the branch. Control-Alt-K. We won't go much further. We'll just get him a little bit further over. Duplicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep him on the branch, make him bigger, and duplicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stay on the branch there, buddy. Make him bigger. And I think that's probably good enough. I think he's probably to a spot that we'll move him one last time to get him down on the lower branch so that he can swing down with his chrysalis. So we'll move him down and over, and that'll be the final spot for him. Awesome. Looks good. Excellent. So at that point, we can kind of see what's been happening. If you go up to the very first one at the top, and if I just use my down arrow to start clicking down through my slides, I can kind of preview the animation. Now, in the end, I'll show you how to turn it into a stop motion animation that plays on its own. But for now, if I just start going down, I can see the eggs wiggling, and then the caterpillar comes out and he crawls over. Okay, now again, I am not going to recreate the entire thing that we did earlier. I just want to show you some of the basic ideas of it. We will not take the time to build the whole thing. I will stop and say that's enough at a certain point. I think I'll just I'll do one more thing. I'll do the chrysalis part because that's a different trick, and I want to show you different tricks here. So I will do that real quick. So at this point, we are now ready for him to swing down and start making his chrysalis. So let me see. We'll say the caterpillar hangs upside down to form the pupa. So let's do that. So let's come here and we'll change the text. And let me show you how I did that, because that's a little bit different with that. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it, and we're going to swing him down. Let me see, the rotation, if I want to keep it smooth, is Alt, left, or right. And that's what I'll do. I'll just do Alt, and we'll do right, Alt, right. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of duplicate the slide and swing him down, Alt, right. Just keep doing Alt, right arrow each time. And it's 15 degrees at a time, so that should take, about 6 turns to get him down there. Let's duplicate him again, and Alt right arrow, and I think he's just about all the way down now. Duplicate him again, Alt right arrow, perfect. And now what I want to do is I want to put a chrysalis on him. So this is something a little bit different. Oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to duplicate him. I meant to duplicate the slide. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert a picture of a chrysalis. So I'll go Insert Image, and I'll go to Search the Web, and let's look for, well, you know what? I'm going to save time. I'm just going to copy the chrysalis off of this one rather than searching for it. That'll be faster. We'll save a little bit of time. I'll just copy the chrysalis, and I'll come over here and I'll paste it in. I'll put it. Now, here's what I've got to make it a little bigger. This caterpillar is a little bit larger, apparently, than the other one I had. Now, here's how I did the chrysalis trick. If you remember, it looks like it grew. If you remember that one, it was like the caterpillar was just there, and then suddenly, the chrysalis forms around him. So the way I did that was I put the chrysalis in, and then I used the crop tool to crop it back, and then little by little uncrop it. So I put the chrysalis on, and then to crop it, you double click on the image. That gives you black bars around it. And I use those black bars to make it look like it was barely there. Like I trimmed it up so it was barely even there. And then I duplicated the slide, double clicked on it again, and started uncropping it. And so slide by slide by slide, all I'm doing is double clicking on it, uncropping it, and again, duplicating it, double clicking on it, uncropping it, and little by little by little, we're able to form our chrysalis. Again, I promise that's it. I will not do any more of this one. I think I've shown you all of the tips and tricks I used. Anything after that's just going to be the same stuff. So you don't need to see the butterfly and all those things. And so there we go. We've gotten to a pretty good spot. He swings down, and the chrysalis forms around him. Okay, so I'm going to pause there for a second, because what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about, once we've got our animation built, how do we actually animate it so that somebody can just click a link and see it play automatically. So I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to look in the chat. I did see a little bit of activity in the chat over here. Looks like there was a question about removing a background and the suggestion of using something like remove.bg. Thank you. Yes, that is absolutely correct. If you end up with an image that is not transparent and you want it to be transparent, you can use a site like remove.bg. And remove.bg allows you to upload an image, and then it will cut out the background from it, and you can then download a PNG version of it that doesn't have the background. So yes, thank you for that suggestion. That is great if you can't find something that you would like to do to put in, and you want to make the background cut out. All right, so at this point, we have our, we'll pretend this one's all done and it's wonderful and we're ready for this to be shared as an animation. Well, the problem is it's just a regular slideshow right now. If I were to come up and click the present button, it's not going to play. I'd have to use my arrow keys, and I'd have to, keep pressing on the arrow key on the keyboard to move it. And I could do that myself. That's kind of cool, but that's manual. That would be requiring somebody to actually click to make it move through the slides. When we were looking at the examples earlier, that's not how it was. When we came in here and clicked on When Pigs Fly, nobody had to do anything. It just opened up full screen and it just starts animating. I'm not clicking anything. I'm not making anything happen. It just goes on its own. So how does that work? How do we do that? Well, for that, what we're doing is we're using something called Publish to the Web. So in a Google Slideshow, if you click on the File menu, there is an option in the dropdown called Publish to the Web. And when you choose that, you get this special pop-up menu that has things that allow us to do the animation. So what you're going to get in this pop-up menu is a box to check that says start the slideshow as soon as the player loads. That's important because that means nobody has to click start or any arrow keys. It just starts running right away. Then there's a box that says restart after the last slide. That's good too, because that lets it loop. If it gets to the end, it'll replay the animation over again. And then there's a box here that lets us change how much time is in between each slide. Well, 3 seconds is really long. So we can use this drop down to shorten it up. So it's a shorter amount of time and it makes it look like more of a fluid animation. Once we do that, we'll then get a link, and that's it. That's the link. That link has all the stuff in it to tell it to play it full screen, start it right away, loop it at the end, and how much time to have in between each slide. So let's try that. Let's go to our butterfly here, and we'll go to the File menu, and we'll go down to Publish to the Web. Give a click on that, and here is our little pop-up that we talked about. I'm going to click the box for Start the Slideshow immediately, click the box for Restart it after the end, and then for the time in between, at the moment, the quickest I can make it here is every 1 second. Now, there is a trick to make it faster, and I'll show you that in just a second, but for now, that's as fast as I can make it here, is 1 second between the slides. But that's it. I'll click the Publish button. It'll say, are you sure? I'll say, okay. And there it is. That's my link. That's my animation link. If I come here and I copy that link, I can now paste that into a new tab. And it's going to be slow because it's a second between each, but it is animating. It went full screen. It is animating. The egg is wiggling, and the caterpillar hopefully is going to pop out. There he is. And now he's making his way across the branch. And again, we will make this go faster. I'll show you how to do that. And now he gets to the end there, and he swings down, and then the pupa will, the chrysalis will appear. Okay, so that is working. So that's really great. That is the link. If a student created an animation, they could submit that link to you. They could submit it through Google Classroom or Schoology or whatever tool you use, and that's how they would submit their final animation that they have created. Or if you create something for your students, that's the link you post for them to be able to see the animation. The question is, how do we make it go faster? So tell you what, let me go to our document where we can share our animations, and I'm going to paste the link in there, and let's take a little closer look at the link, and I bet you'll notice something kind of cool about it. So this link, it looks like a bunch of random numbers and letters at first, but when you get to the very end of it, there's some key things at the end of that publish to the web link. One is, does it start right away? Yep, that's true. Does it loop at the end? Yep, that's true. But what about this one? Delay MS. Aha. That is how many milliseconds to delay between the slides. Well, 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second, and that's the shortest we can make it in the menu, but nothing's going to stop me from coming in here and removing that and typing in my own number. How about that? What if I say my delay is 250 milliseconds? Well, that's 1/4 of a second. If I copy that and I come back and I paste it again, now it's going to move much faster. Look at that egg moving. Look at that caterpillar going. Man, it's cruising now. And so we can adjust the speed to whatever speed we want. Now, the only problem is my title slide goes by a little too quickly when I do that. So another trick we can do is if I go back to the original slideshow, I could take the title slide and duplicate it a bunch of times so that when this plays, it will be, it'll pause a little bit on the title. So let's try this again. Let's paste this back in and see. Good. Okay, so now it's chilling on the title for a little bit, and then it's jumping into our slideshow. Looks good. That's doing great. All right. So at that point, let me shrink this back down. That's a little bigger than it probably needs to be. There we go. So at that point, boom, there it is. There is my animation that I have created. Now, again, if you guys have created anything that you want to share today, again, you're allowed to do so. In the agenda document at the very bottom, there's a link to the Share Your Creation document, and you are encouraged, if you wish to paste your links in here as well so we can see what you've made. I am going to go a little bit deeper, though, because we've hit a lot of really awesome things, but one thing we haven't talked about was, if you remember in my original butterfly animation, there was audio. There was narration when it got to the slide. In the animation, you heard me say, first the eggs hatch into caterpillars. That was part of it. How did I do that? So I want to demonstrate how that works, and we'll do a little deep dive into that, and then we'll check back and see again if anybody has an animation that they would like to share with us. So let's talk about how to add audio to a stop motion animation. Well, at the bottom of the agenda document, you'll see I've got the section called optional. And this optional section talks about some other fun things we could do, and one of them is adding audio using the Mote extension. All right. Now, you may be familiar with Mote. You may know all about it, but if you've not heard about it, I am excited to introduce you to the Mote extension. So the Mote extension is something you'd have to install. It is a Chrome web extension, so it's an optional thing you would need to install. In the agenda, I do have a link to the Chrome Web Store that will take you out to the page where you can install Mote. I've already got it installed, so it says remove from Chrome, but yours would say add to Chrome, and you could click that button and you could install the Mote extension. What is Mote? Okay, for those who have not heard of it, it's an extension that allows you to record your voice and add it to pretty much any Google tool. You can record your voice and add it to a document. You can add it to a Google form. You can add it to a Gmail. you can add it to a Google slideshow. And it's really simple and easy to use. In the past, being able to put audio into things, you had to jump through so many hoops, recording it and uploading it and sharing it and inserting it. And this just streamlines the whole process. Better yet, it is free. There is a paid version with more bells and whistles, but the free version works great. It allows you to record up to 30 seconds at a time, which is plenty fine. If you need more, just record more times. But it lets you record up to 30 seconds at a time. And it's totally free for anybody. Students can use this. You can use this. Anybody can use it. It's open for anybody to use. And so I have already got this installed. And because I've installed it, you'll see way up in the top right-hand corner of my screen, that moat icon, the purple circle with the M, is way up here in the top right, because that is my, my moat extension there. You can see if I click on it, that is my moat extension is installed and ready to go. Well, how do we use it? Well, the way that we end up using it is we go into our slideshow and we find the spot where we want the audio to be. And then we click the little moat icon above the slide. So above the slideshow, there's that same moat icon. If I give it a click, it pops up this little pop-up window. And all I have to do is click there, start talking, click it again to stop, and it'll do the rest. So let's try it out. So what I'm going to say, I think in this one I say, first, the eggs hatch into caterpillars. So I'll record that. First, the eggs hatch into caterpillars. Give that a second. Let it do its recording. If I want to hear it back, I can click the little play button to make sure it sounded okay. First, the eggs hatch into caterpillars. Looks good. Then I'll just click insert. Give that a moment. And usually it does a pretty good, sometimes it gets hung up, and of course I think it's getting hung up at the moment. If it gets hung up, you just re-record it. I'm not sure why. Sometimes I'll see Moat do this. It just kind of gets hung up. Don't panic. It happens every now and then. Yeah, I think I'll just do this one again. All you got to do is just refresh it if it does that, and just try it again. Sorry about that, guys. Let's do that one more time. First, the egg hatches into a caterpillar. Okay, we'll try it one more time. Hopefully it'll be happy this time. Sometimes I've noticed that. It just, on occasion, it'll get hung up. And if that happens, no biggie. Just re-record it. And there it is. Perfect. Excellent. And so now you'll notice it has dropped into my slide this little speaker icon. If I hover above it and I click on it, let's hear it. First, the egg hatches into a caterpillar. Love it. Excellent. Okay, so this is encouraging. We now have audio on our slide, but we got to think about this. There are some settings we're going to want to adjust here so that the audio plays the way we want it to. When you insert the audio, you should get a panel that pops up on the side. If you don't, you can always click on the audio, go up to Format Options in the top menu to reopen that panel. Because we need to make a couple of choices here. One of them is, what makes the audio start playing? The default is on click. Well, we don't want that, because that would mean as the stop motion is playing, somebody would have to literally click on the audio icon to get it to play. I want to choose automatically so that the audio plays when it gets to that slide. Now, here's another thing that we need to think about. These slides are moving fast. Well, I've got them set at a 1/4 second each. Well, the default is to stop playing the audio when you switch to a new slide. Well, that's not going to work, because that would only give me a 1/4 second for the audio to play. So I'm going to uncheck that box, which means it'll keep playing the audio all the way through, even while the slides are changing. And that's it. As long as I say play automatically and do not stop on a slide change, then we're good to go. I can check the one to hide the icon if I want, but I find I usually just drag it off the side of the screen. And you can do that. You can just move it off to the side, and it doesn't hurt a thing. You can have it out of view, and it's still there, and it'll still work perfectly fine. All right. Pretty cool. All right. So let's go ahead and try this now. So I've got my slideshow. I've got a slide that has audio with it. And if I now go back to my link and click on my link, we should get it playing and we should get audio. Let's see. Let's try it out. Let's see.
First, the egg hatches into a caterpillar.
It worked. Great. Very cool. And it's just going to keep doing it again. Okay, well, we'll stop that. There we go. Awesome. So that's the idea of using Moat to be able to add audio. And you don't have to. That's completely optional. Everything I did before that made a perfectly good stop motion animation. You don't have to have audio in there. But for those that would like to include it, I haven't found anything simpler. This seems to be the easiest way to be able to embed that in there, which is really nice. Awesome. Well, let's do a couple things. We're getting close to the end of our time. I do see that we have another one that has been added in here. So let's take a look and see what got. Oh, and by the way, with these links, I know they are a little bit ugly looking because they're so long. You can clean them up if you want, so they look more like this. You don't have to. It's totally fine to leave it the way it is. But if you want to, like I could click on my link, and then if I click the little pencil underneath it, I could change the text of the link. Don't change the link itself, but I could come up here and I could change the text of the link and have the text say something else. So let me delete out all of that, and I could say something like Eric's butterfly example. And if I apply that, it just makes for a little bit of a prettier link. So yeah, you can always do that in a Google Doc if you want. Well, let's take a look at the one we have here and see what amazing animate. Okay, perspective drawing. Let's take a look at this. Very nice. Okay, we're getting a line here. It's a horizon line like that. Vanishing point. Okay. Oh, this is cool. I'm liking this. Draw lines connecting the vanishing point to create a three-dimensional shape. Erase horizon line inside. Love it. Thank you. I don't know who did it, so we don't have anybody claiming it as their own. So I'm not sure who did it, but I want to say thank you. And you don't have to. You can stay anonymous, but I really appreciate that. That is a great example. Thank you for being willing to share your example with us. That is greatly appreciated there. That's great. Awesome. So as far as any other little extensions of things that we could mention beyond this, let me do a couple things. First of all, if you have any questions, please, now's the time to ask. If you got any questions, that's great. Throw things in the chat, or at this point, please just feel free to unmute. That is totally okay. If you just want to unmute and holler at me, if you feel more comfortable asking a question that way, that is fine as well. But while you guys are thinking, if you got any questions, comments to share, I do have a few other little quick optional things at the end. Another thing you could do with this is if you want to make a video out of this rather than have it be playing like a slideshow, you could use a tool like Screencastify, which is another Chrome extension that allows you to record your screen. Screencastify can record for up to 5 minutes for free each time. And so you could fire up Screencastify, start playing the animation, and you could record it and save it as a video. And another way that you could save it is using a website called Tall Tweets. Tall Tweets is a website that lets you turn Google slideshows into animated GIFs. So if I head over to Tall Tweets, what I can do is I can select my presentation. And if I were to come in here and grab my life cycle of a butterfly, what it will do is it will pull that into the Tall Tweets site. And then I can set the width, how big I want it to be, and I can tell it how many seconds I want in between each slide. And then it'll create a downloadable animated GIF so that I could actually have a GIF that I could then put into other things like a slideshow or a website or things like that. So the method I showed you of doing the publish to the web, that's wonderful. That works great. But these are some other options. Now, Tall Tweets does take a little while for it to load. And I think it has a limit of 100 slides. Mine's not that big. So it just does take a little bit of time for it to pull the whole slideshow in. So we can come back around and take a look at it here in a minute and see if it has been able to properly, pull it in. And if so, then I'll show you how it then creates the animated GIF. Oh, there it is. It just took a little while to pull it in. So basically, I come here and I set the width. I say, 640 pixels is fine, or whatever. And how much time between each, 0.25 for the duration is fine. And that's it. Click Create GIF. And now what it's going to do is it's going to go through each of my slides and create an animated GIF. It's not going to have audio because animated GIFs don't have audio in there. So if you want the audio, the publish to the web option is really the only way to go. But there it is. There's my animation, and I can click save, and it will download that as an animated GIF. And now I could take that GIF and I could put that, inside of anything. So I have this saved as a GIF, which is really nice. It's another neat way to do it. All right, well, folks, as we start to wrap up, a couple of quick things I want to say. So one is, remember that everything that I shared here can be found at bit.ly/Kurtz-stop-motion. That'll get you to this agenda document that has all the links and resources and blog posts and things that you can tap into there. And I want to remind you that for all of our sessions, we do have certificates of attendance that you can get for these. So if you go back to the conference website, for example, here's our session on stop motion animation. You'll see that underneath the description here, there's a link that says certificate of completion. So each of the sessions do have a Google form that you can go to, fill out the form, and looks like the title didn't pop in automatically that time. So sorry, we'll have to choose stop motion animation. I'll fix that. It should have come up automatically. So sorry, I'll get that fixed. But that link should pull it up automatically for you. But if not, you can just choose stop motion animation, and then you can submit that, and that will generate a PDF certificate of attendance for you there as well. So as we start to wrap up, I just want to say thank you guys so very much for being a part of this session. This has been recorded, so you'll be able to get back to it in the future and share it with others. If anybody has any other final questions or comments, please feel free to share those. Otherwise, thank you for taking the time to be with me. If your students create some animations, I'd love to see them. Please feel free to send them my way. I'm always excited to see what you or your students create. And I hope you find some other awesome sessions throughout the day. I have one more that I'm doing at the end of the day on Google Tools for struggling students. So tools for accessibility and accommodations and tools to help support struggling learners. But there's loads of other amazing sessions going on today. So I hope you find some more things that are great for you. Again, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point, but I can hang out if anybody has some more questions that you would like to ask.